Hello, and welcome to the Kosh. I'm your host, Timber Smith, and I'm really excited today. Well, no, I'm always really excited. You know, I'm going to have to talk about this because I just did this yesterday, and even though it's going to date the show, I'm still going to share about it. So I had the opportunity of getting my hands on these amazing tickets to the Brewers game. So yesterday was game one for the Brewers in the playoffs. I had seats that were directly behind home plate. And let me just say this. I've never had such good seats. And I'm still feeling the effects a little bit of such a good time at the Brewers game. So quick shout out. And I'm starting out shout outs really early in the show this time. But quick shout out to my friends at the UW Oshkosh OPD. Thank you very much for taking me along and letting me tag along. It was a fantastic, fantastic time. Now, on to the show. What's going on out there, Kosh listeners? Appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in again. Once again, super excited about this show. And I'll tell you why I'm so excited is because, once again, I was able to get a very, very quality guest. And I'm particularly excited about this, but you'll figure out why later on, so I'm not going to share it right now. But I think this guest here is going to help us become better.
Well.
Did that feel like I put pressure on?
Hey, that's subjective.
All right. So this week's guest is Wendell Ray. So, Wendell, can you please share a little something about yourself and what is your connection to the Kosh?
Well, thank you for having me. First of all, I appreciate being invited. I've listened to some of your podcasts, so I know what you do, and I'm really happy to be here. I was born in Indianapolis, Indiana, and that is where I was. Spent most of my time. I was raised there. I lived there till I was about 40, in my 40s. Worked in that market, basically. My profession is radio broadcasting and broadcasting in general. Also did some television for a while. Went to Indiana University, so everything was pretty much close to home where I was. And then I moved to Chicago about 15 years ago, and that's where I lived, obviously, since about 2006. And my connection to Oshkosh, and the reason that I am here is because I'm now an instructor at the University of Wisconsin-Oshkosh and am director of radio services. There is a pretty storied radio, TV, film program at UWO, very well-regarded, award-winning in all facets, and the department itself was recognized as the best staff in the UW system last year. The year before I joined, didn't have anything to do with me, but certainly was a reason for me coming on board and becoming the new director of radio services for WRST-FM, WRST.org. It's really a wonderful institution and a great place to be. So that's my connection to Oshkosh, and a little bit about me. I am a husband, father, and a grandfather at this point now.
Ooh.
Yeah. Two grandchildren.
Two grandchildren?
Two, man, yeah.
Okay.
It's good, though, because grandchildren are children that you can have a wonderful time with and enjoy their company, and then send them away when you had enough.
You said when it get hot, you can go on and
right.
give them a snack and go on and pack them home.
When the parents come back, but grandchildren are definitely a blessing, though.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna be the first to call it that. You definitely have a radio voice. Like you
do I?
Yes, you have the radio voice going on.
Okay,
I think that's smooth.
All right, thank you.
I got to work on mine. Yeah, it ain't gonna work. It just is what it is.
I don't know. I guess I guess. Thank you. I think. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a compliment. All right. You ready to jump into the first segment?
If you're ready to, I'm here following your flow. But if that's what you want to do, I'm more than ready to go.
Okay. First segment, what in the world is going on with? This is where you start off with what in the world is going on, and then you share what's on your mind.
I have been noticing for a while, Timber, something that I want to know what in the world is going on with definitions. And what I mean, I guess, by definitions is this new definition of patriotism and what appears to me, at least, to have been a co-opting of the American flag. What do I mean by that? What I mean is that I'm an African American. There was a time when if I saw the rebel flag, I knew that kind of meant something to me. And that meant someone who was proud of a certain lifestyle and a certain heritage that wasn't necessarily something that I was happy about. I don't see very many rebel flags anymore, but what I do see is a group that defines themselves as patriots waving the American flag, but supporting views that don't really seem very American.
Right.
They seem more in line with those who used to carry the rebel flag.
There's a lot of people who carry both.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. But I didn't know if that was something that I was, if that's something that's true or not. And if so, what's up with that?
That's a really good question. And I definitely have I know where you're coming from with that too. And I think certain people are using the American flag to be exclusive.
Okay.
To have this to create this group of these people, like we're the super Americans, or we're more American than y'all, or because you are in this marginalized population, or because you identify as this, or whatever it is, you're other.
Yes.
You're other, whatever the other is, right? Yeah. You do not fall under this American flag.
That's right. And those individuals typically, as I have noticed, are the ones who call themselves patriots, which is why I asked, has there been a redefinition, a recategorization of what patriotism is, or what it is to be patriotic? That is loving your country, and that's what I thought it was. And I guess if you're redefining what the country is, then you get to define what a patriot is.
Well, I think it goes even more so than I think they try to define what an American is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Right, because there's othering that's happening in that, and they're trying to say that this person isn't acting our definition of American, and I think a really good example of that might have been Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And there was, in my humble opinion, what he was doing exactly. There's people who made it political and partisan, and they defined it all sorts of ways, and it was the most hateful representation it's disrespectful to the country and all this. And I was like,
to the flag,
to the country, right? Because that's how they really defined it. It was more than that, because it wasn't about the flag after a while, right? Because then it was like, well, you're disrespecting all the people that served and all of this all this other stuff, right? Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I said to myself, how? Because here's what I've always known about kneeling. Kneeling has always been something of reverence. I don't know anything that you kneel in front of that you don't have reverence for.
That's true.
You kneel at the altar.
Mm-hmm.
You kneel when you're ready to ask your partner to be your partner for life. You kneel when you pray. I really, and I mean, there's a bunch of other reasons that people kneel. Veterans also kneel at times when they're showing reverence to the fallen.
Yeah.
So,
Well, it had nothing to do with it. We all know that.
what
it had to do with is, in a nutshell, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I believe here's what we're seeing in all the common thread through all of this stuff. Redefine or trying to hold on to what people want to call America and American is that I remember, Timber, when I was I can't remember. I was either in college, probably was in college, and I took a course, and I remember one lecture. I don't even remember which course it was, but the professor said that in X number of years, there will be more minorities in the United States than white people. And I remember thinking at that time when I was about 18, 19, 20 years old, thinking, oh, wow, that's interesting. But I never really thought what it meant
right
beyond numbers. So I think what we're seeing is some folks who are really having a problem with not being that majority power anymore, and they're grasping onto things and symbols and definitions and trying to hold on to a way of life or a representation of what they have always thought of America, and that is fading away. So when you have someone who is as bold as Colin Kaepernick is to use his platform to talk about police brutality, or you have someone who is unhappy with the number of people who don't look or talk like them gaining more influence politically or otherwise, you get these a definition of what it is to be American. I need to. This is what American is about. I'm American, as you said. The flag represents me. I'm going to hold it. This is not what you're not in that group, as you said. And I think that train left the station many, many decades ago.
Right.
This trend was coming a long time ago, and I think there's just some folks who are having some trouble with that. And I don't know how to reconcile that, but I don't think, the cat is out of the bag.
I don't know. I think it will reconcile itself. Mm-hmm. I'm a firm believer that you can either partner with change or you will eventually have to succumb to it.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
I agree. But I just kind of noticed that and, wondered. And it's not anything unique to Wisconsin or the Fox Valley or anything like that. I see it, wherever you go, you see it. And I'm like, okay, and here's when I knew it wasn't just me, and we can move on after this, is that I had to plan an event in Indianapolis. And I had to get a B&B that was large enough for a pretty big gathering. And I was in Chicago, so I called a family member. We found a place, and I asked him to go scout it out for me because it was in a neighborhood that had been kind of redeveloped. And I wanted to make sure that it was a neighborhood that was, going to be nice for people to gather. There wasn't going to be issues with parking, and there wasn't going to be any issues with, a broken down house right next door, because it is being redeveloped on the south side of Indianapolis. And so he went by and he said, I'm going to look for American flags because we know what that means. And I said, okay. So I'm not the only one who's thinking that. And that's kind of why I wanted to kind of present it here today, because what he was saying was, if we see a lot of that, we know who we're going to be dealing with. And you may have some issues with people trying to call the police on you because that American flag now represents something else that it maybe 20 years ago didn't.
That's wild. When you actually say it out loud, that's deep.
Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah.
Okay. Look,
bruh.
I don't even know what else. I don't know what else to do with that one. That's hot. Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's cool it off then.
All right. Well, I don't know if we cooling it off, but what in the world is going on with these F Biden flags?
I heard about that.
Look, because I drove past a couple of them, and this is not about me picking a political side or a political agenda at all. This is about civility,
public decorum.
Yeah. Like, who have we become that we just got people out here that we gonna put out F-word flags on the front of our houses where other families are walking by, kids, and who have we become, and why? What are you so mad about? What has happened? I just don't even get it.
We just talked about it, Timber.
Right. I know we just talked about it.
That's it.
But
that's another manifestation of that whole thing.
But these
anger.
You're right. This F Biden flag stuff though. And I'm just thinking, those people who are doing this, could you ruin the growth of a community anymore? Could you ruin the opportunity for a business to come in here and bring in a new business with new workers from outside of the area or anything of the such? You are just showing that we are not civil. That this community, and I'm not saying there's a bunch of flags out there, but it only takes a couple, right? Yeah. Because people judged a few. If you see 2, 3, 4, and you're not from here, and you start driving around, you start wondering what's up with this.
Well, not only it's not just the number, and you're right, but it's also the reaction to it. You had that reaction to it, but I read that the government said, well, we're okay with it. We don't regulate that. We're not going to, we only regulate size or of the sign or something to that effect.
Absolutely, yeah.
Not about an individual's right to say whatever they want to, but that can't be
freedom of speech.
Yeah,
it falls, and the only reason I'm kind of in that world right now, right, in my new profession. What can local government truly do, and what do you want your local government to truly do? And my thing is this: I don't necessarily want my local government to go and interfere with that. I don't think that's the place of government.
Sure,
I think that's the place of civil society and human beings, neighbors, put pressure on each other and be like, dude, I don't want my grandchildren seeing that. I don't want, I want us to have an opportunity to get the best talent in the area. I want us to get new businesses in the area. That kind of stuff truly is done to create an exclusive environment and to tell others, you are not welcome.
That's exactly right.
And
that's how I see it.
That's just crazy.
That's how I see it, and, but yeah. And like I said, it's all tied to that first topic that I brought up. It's all, the same thing. It's just a different, reaction to what has been happening. And it's not about Biden necessarily. It's about what Biden represents. And I think, that's just what we're seeing. We're seeing that conflict. We're seeing those opinions more so. But it's always been here. I think we just have had some ignition and some igniting of sentiments, and people feel they can say what they want to say. Our former president used to. I mean, he was not someone who held to norms that previous administrations had in terms of what he might say or how he might say things. And there you go.
That's fair. I just, I hope that we get back to the space of civility. I'm not trying to tell anyone what your politics should be, who you should like, or anything like that. But I am an advocate for, we all got to live together. We all got to live together at the end of the day. And we should try to make that pretty decent.
I agree.
All right. Next segment, word associations. All right.
Okay.
First word, food.
Pescatarian. That's what I am. So when I think of food, I think now in terms of what I do eat and what I don't eat.
Ooh, break that down.
Well, several years ago, this has been a transition that's probably been going on for probably about, I'd say about 6 or 7 years for me. Well, maybe even longer than that. Maybe about 20 years ago, I stopped eating pork, not for any religious reasons, just to kind of, ease out of that. I didn't eat a lot of it. That was followed by all red meat, which then was followed by chicken and turkey. And then I kind of stopped at fish and seafood. And I've been on that sort of a regimen for this is 2021, for about 4 years.
Okay.
So when I think of food, I think of that. Why? Because it is a very particular diet, and it takes some fortitude to get through it. Because like I said, I didn't do it because of any religious reasons, just because I wanted to try and do what I thought might be a healthier way of living for me. And I feel good about my choice, but when I go out, to a restaurant or go to the grocery store, I still see food that I used to eat that I would still like to eat, and it's difficult to find things on a menu sometimes. But so food for me, I think of my diet.
Okay. Cocktail, beer.
I guess beer, because if you went into my home now, there'd be beer in the refrigerator, not necessarily cocktail shakers out. Though I do like cocktails. But I guess if beers are quicker, I don't have to mix a drink or anything like that.
Do you got a favorite beer?
Probably Heineken.
Okay.
Yeah, I drink Heineken most of the time. As a matter of fact, if I had to go buy beer, that's what I'm looking for.
All right. Do we have a favorite cocktail?
A couple. But Long Islands have always been something that I like.
Those scare me.
Yeah, and not the mix.
Look, Long Islands. I know. There's Kosh listeners out there right now that just winced. Like,
really?
Well, because there's some establishments. There's a couple of libations establishments in Oshkosh that on Sundays used to have $2 Long Islands.
$2.
That's a pint. And let me tell you, that was I've never met a weak Long Island, but it was a $2 Long Island.
Now that, my jaw is almost on the table here.
Well, this is people who lived in the Kosh know these things exist.
Wow.
That's just, I'll be the first to admit I've definitely gone to a couple of them nights and back in the day. Sure. I mean, I'm sure they don't exist anymore, but yes, I might have a little PTSD from some $2 Long Island iced teas.
Wow, $2. Yeah. Now that's an impressive price. I can understand why someone might be skittish about that now because, one Long Island is usually pretty good for you. For the drink. And that's probably how I started drinking them. I didn't want to keep buying cocktails. I wanted to have one that kind of would last me for a minute. And I found that Long Island's did that. So that's why. And now I just make them at home. So I'm pretty good with that.
Bruh. That's what I think about them Long Islands.
I like the buttons.
All right.
Show. I love it.
Streaming.
WRST.org. Now, that's the station that I work at now. We have student managers on UWO's campus that run the station. I'm the director of operations, which means I kind of make sure that the station doesn't run off the rails. But in the last year or so, we've been making a concerted effort to promote our streaming that we do, not just the over-the-air signal at 90.3. So when you say streaming, that's all I've been thinking about for the last 18 months or so, is making sure that we strengthen that area of what we do. Other than that, I would say the next thing I think of is Netflix, which is something I was watching last night. A nice little series. So
what's on? What are we binging?
Midnight Mass.
Midnight Mass.
Have you seen it?
No, I haven't heard of that one. What's going on?
Midnight Mass, and it's interesting because I had seen it. It's been out maybe a week or two, and I saw it and I just scrolled by it. But last night my wife had control of the remote, and so that's where it stopped, and that's where and that's what we watched, and we ended up watching about 5 episodes last night. It's about a small island community where some miraculous, and I'm talking about spiritual kind of miraculous events are taking place. And there is a church, a central church that the whole community attends, that is led by a Monsignor. And without giving much away, he has an encounter at some point when he travels to Jerusalem, comes back, I'll say, and a lot of miraculous things start happening. I haven't gotten to the end of it.
Okay.
But I think it's pretty well written in terms of the biblical portion of it. And it's got great characters, pretty good actors. Even though I don't recognize many of them, they're pretty good. So, and then streaming is something I got my MBA, did my capstone on with Netflix. So I wrote about them many years ago when they were still a mail-in DVD service.
Okay.
And I talked about how they were going to have to transition into streaming, and that's what happened. And so that I think of those two things.
I got a lot of love for WRST when back in the day. I actually used to have a little radio show.
There you go.
A little midnight hip hop show
That's
at
cool.
WRST. That was way back in. That's you talking.
Is that low? Okay.
Well, we're talking what? I'm trying to think. That might have been 95, 96, somewhere in there.
That's cool though.
Yeah.
Man. How'd you enjoy that experience being on the air? Look at you now.
Yeah, well, maybe this is one of those things where you don't even realize where the seed was planted. Right. I just thought it was cool because we used to let people call in.
Yeah.
We couldn't play the call, but people could call in. We was doing your mama jokes. We was just clowning. Just clowning.
True college radio.
Yeah, true college radio. We was just having a good time with it. And it was I can't explain anything else other than I was, to be perfectly honest, and I wasn't a radio, TV, film major, so I thought it was amazing. They would let me in the booth like that.
Yeah, right.
That's
Turn
cool.
you loose.
That they turned me loose. So I had a really good time with that experience. So you're right. Maybe that's what planted the seed, and many moons later, this is how the Kosh has come to fruition.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Shop local.
Shop local, what I think of is Pick and Save. Is that local?
Can be.
Okay.
I mean,
I had never heard of one before I came here. So
okay, it is defined. However, this is your word association,
Okay,
so
well,
the Pick and Save works.
that works for me because I don't know of very many other local establishments. I've been here about a year now, but that's just about as local as I can get.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. Well, since you mentioned it now, how how has your how have you been enjoying being, because you've got compared to a lot of the guests that I have, you've got a new set of eyes for Oshkosh.
Yeah.
So so how has it been? How's the experience of transitioning into, and more than just Oshkosh, maybe the Fox Valley in general?
I've enjoyed my time here. I really have. I didn't know what to expect. I had been to the state of Wisconsin maybe once. I remember, I don't know where I was going, but I traveled through Milwaukee once.
Okay.
I don't know where I was going. Man, I can't imagine. It's difficult to remember where I was going, but I do remember coming, and that was as close as I got. Was that little time I remember seeing you're now in Milwaukee and driving through Milwaukee on my way somewhere else. I think I was on my way maybe on a fishing trip to Minnesota.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think of me going this far north from Illinois or Indiana. But I have enjoyed my time here. I really have. And the UWO has been a really nice place to be.
Oh yeah, I love campus.
It's and I started, of course, during the COVID restrictions when we were basically virtual, but I was on campus, and so it was very desolate.
Oh yeah, it really was.
Yeah, so I didn't get to see much of what it is like now, and I'm really enjoying it. The vibe there and the people, really is a nice place to be, and a nice campus as well. I really do enjoy it. I don't get to see much of the Fox Valley. My wife now is with me. We were maintaining 2 homes for some personal reasons. We were taking care of my mother-in-law in Chicago, and so she's there taking care of her. And so now she's up here with me, and so I probably will be getting out a little bit more to see more of the city, more of the region, right, as we do things. But so far, my travels from my home to campus and my campus home has been enjoyable.
Okay. Cool. I just, it's nice just to hear others who are coming into the area and what do their eyes see and what is their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, I've been living around here for like 30 years. So.
Oh, okay, I see. Yeah.
And so but what I see and I notice is a totally different. I'm immersed. I'm an Oshkosh resident. I am Oshkosh local.
And you were where before Oshkosh?
Milwaukee.
Okay.
Yep.
Milwaukee.
Born and raised Milwaukee prior.
Okay.
Okay. Chicago.
Home. It took a while to start calling Chicago home because I still have lived longer in Indianapolis than Chicago, and my family basically is still in Indianapolis, but Chicago's home, and I love Chicago. I really do, and I love it for many reasons. I know nationally it gets a rap as being a very violent place, and there certainly is that part of it. I can't deny that, and it's got some issues that need to be resolved. But the city as a whole is a really nice place to be in terms of being very cosmopolitan and always is a very high energy place.
Right.
Lots of stuff to do, lots of interesting people, and lots of different types of people. So I enjoy that. You meet all kind of folks in Chicago. I remember when I first got there, going to the supermarket and walking to the supermarket and passing people. And I can remember thinking, I've just passed about 3 different people who were speaking 3 different languages. I had never experienced something like that before, but I came to appreciate and enjoy that.
Yeah. Chicago is cool. I would dig Chicago minus the fact that I hate driving and I don't want to drive in that because it's wild. I done drove around in Chicago and missed a turn and then I'm lost for 45 minutes and I can't get back to where I was trying to get to. And this was back when GPS sucked, where it would always be like, make a U-turn. You ain't making no U-turn in Chicago.
Not here.
No, man, that ain't happening. I'm trying to tell you that it ain't happening. So I used to, if I could find a way to get around that wasn't driving, I would have greater appreciation. But my times when I've been there for different things, whether it was conferences and other types of events, like it was cool. Yeah. Like it is cool because you're right. There's so many different types of people and like I like, as a person who's lived in Oshkosh, and Oshkosh isn't necessarily in this space right now, but it used to be. I like the feeling of just being. Mm-hmm. And what I mean is like almost invisible, where no one's paying attention to you because you don't stand out any kind of way or anything like that. Like you just exist. And there's, I don't know, there's a peace with that.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, where you don't. Yeah, there's no eyes on you.
Yeah,
or the perception that there may be eyes on you.
Right, and I'm not.
Everybody just kind of is just walking around doing whatever they're doing.
Well, everybody too busy worrying about what they got to get done. They ain't worried about you.
Yes,
and
that's true.
And I do feel like that now, living here.
Okay.
But I can't say that's how I felt, 25 years ago, 20 years ago or so.
Okay.
So we've come ways.
Good.
We've grown.
That's good.
All right. Last word. Radio.
My life. I know that's not a word, but that's a phrase. But radio has really been my life since I was 17. Was in high school and was in a class at my high school that allowed me to shadow some personalities at a radio station. And they did that because that's what I said I wanted to do. I wanted to be in media. And I've been doing it since then, and that was many years ago. But I ended up staying at that radio station after I graduated from college and coming back, and that's kind of where I spent most of my time in radio there. But radio has been my life. I enjoy it. It has taken me different places. I've met all sorts of people. It's opened doors for me. It has provided a living for me. And every time I have ventured away from radio, that is, okay, there's an old saying, if you haven't been fired, then you haven't been in radio long enough. And there's going to be times where you're in between jobs. So, in between jobs gets old after a while. And so you start looking at other things to do. But every time I move off in a different direction, I get pulled right back in. I get offered a position. And so it has been my life for a long time, many decades. And I couldn't be happier with my choice in careers.
Do you think, and I heard somebody make a statement of this sort, do you think radio's in danger of maybe and maybe of not existing so much? But basically, I heard this actually stated on air on a radio station from it was a morning show actually, and they were talking about podcasting actually really redefining radio, and even where more people are tuning into podcasts and things of that sort versus into like your local radio stations and stuff.
Well, as I mentioned, I'm an instructor, and one of the courses that I teach, this is one of the lectures, is radio dead? Well, actually, I bring this up in a couple of the courses that I teach because it is a topic that people are interested in. Is radio becoming irrelevant or your father's kind of medium. And what I would say to that is, no, radio is relevant and probably will always be relevant. But I think radio is certainly in a transitional period, much as it has been in many different times through its inception from the 20th century on. It had to adapt to television. It had to adapt to being portable. And there was the advent of the disc jockey and how that came about as an entertainment venue for people to be entertained, not only in their homes, but now they can carry the radio around. Then there was DVDs and CDs that kind of came. So there's always been something to challenge radio. And now we have connected cars where the radio now is just a ghost in a person's car. But all the studies that I've seen done by independent researchers and companies that follow this sort of thing still demonstrate that radio has more reach than any of the other mediums out there. Television, connected devices, social media, any of those platforms. But it definitely is changing. Fewer people get radio from a radio. That's why I mentioned that I was so interested in streaming.
Right.
And teaching our students about streaming and the relevance of being having a presence online. And not only that, the devices like Alexa are where people will call for a radio station. Alexa, play 90.3 or whatever your station of choice is. Instead of actually having a radio and going to tune it in, you just...
Nope, we might need to stop that. Hold on one second there.
Did I just call for it?
You just called for it.
She heard me.
Alexa, stop.
I didn't know you had Alexa in the studio.
Yeah, I forgot. I forgot to give you that warning.
But the short answer is no. I think it is transitioning, and it's transitioning because there's, again, competition, newer competition, different. Technology has a way of making any industry change, and so I think that that's all we're seeing. Local information will usually, unless there's some new invention, always be a hallmark of radio. And just like the Kosh is recognizing that there are local people who want to talk about local issues and want to hear about their local communities, radio still is going to be the place for that.
Absolutely. That makes sense. All right. We're off to the Kosh Hidden Gems.
Kosh Hidden Gems.
Yes.
This is not necessarily, I think, unique to Oshkosh, but what it is unique, I think, is to Wisconsin. That's the Friday fish fry.
Oh, yeah.
See that now? See, you're from now. The other thing I recognized is that many people who are from Wisconsin just move around Wisconsin. They don't really move out of Wisconsin. So.
That might be true.
So that's not unusual to you. But from someone coming from out of state to have that sort of a communal thing where it's just Friday is Fish Friday. I was like, cool, I love fish, so I'm all with that. So that was kind of something that brought a smile to my face, that there's a special day for me who likes fish. And so a Friday fish fry took me back to, my Catholic school days when I was in first grade. Yeah.
Yeah, it is amazing. Like, that is just an understood thing of being in Wisconsin. Like, Friday fish fries, Friday fish fries and old fashions. That's kind of.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That's they kind of go hand in hand.
And old fashioned, the drink.
Yep. Oh yeah.
Now see, that's a drink that I highly respect.
Oh yeah, old fashions here. Like, this is, if you travel the country and you ask for an old fashioned, they almost assume you're from Wisconsin.
Is that right?
Oh yeah, because old fashions here, that's part of the fabric of Wisconsin.
Well, then I need to get with it, because I will drink an old fashioned. Like I said, I like to have a drink that'll last.
Yep.
And there's nothing that'll last longer than an old fashioned, at least with me.
Okay, well, see, and if you should be, let me throw you in there. Then that should be the fish fry with the old fashioned, because then they'll just be like, you won't even see a blink of an eye. They'll be like, of course, it's an of course.
Okay,
Now
I've learned something. This podcast is not only entertaining, it is enriching. So thank you very much, man.
Hey,
I've learned a lot here.
I appreciate that. All right, what does the Kosh need?
Well, look, man, and it may not just be the Kosh, but certainly the Kosh is in there. I think maybe there's a need for a green book. We know what a green book is, right?
Yeah, I know what a green book is, and
I don't mean in terms of what's a safe place to go,
right?
but is there a place where I can go get a haircut?
Yep.
Where can I go get some soul food?
Yep.
Where are other Black-owned businesses that I may want to patronize?
It exists.
Well, they need to give it out.
Wait. Like most things, it's digital.
Okay. So
I'm
does it have a name?
It's actually, well, what I will tell you is this has been a conversation we've had here in Oshkosh before, and there has been attempts before in Oshkosh, but then you get into the constant rotation of businesses coming and going, and the cost of publishing and stuff like that. So people had kind of gotten away from it, but there's been several attempts from different individuals I know, both in the community and outside, associated with the university. But I can tell you right now, at least for the city of Appleton, there is that book. It is the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion book that does have, and it's for, it's totally inclusive. It has all the different cultural food, different organizations that do it, because there's a lot of diversity, equity, and inclusion organizations that are doing great work out there. So it covers everything. So you know what? I'm going to make sure that I will put that in podcast notes, because I think it's a great point. I'm sorry that it's not going to be for the Kosh, but hey, I'm going to put it out there, and maybe Kosh listeners, let's make something happen.
Would one work here? Is there a need for one here, do you think?
I'm not. Here's what my feeling is: there's always a need, but yeah, I'm not sure.
Would it sustain? I guess is what
it would sustain. It would sustain. And there is a growth of business. Like I said, it's just from my observation over the years, there's just been there's a turnover, quick turnover for people making valid attempts and trying to start businesses and stuff. And so at the end of the day, a lot of the resources that people need, particularly referencing people of color, the big box shops have made an effort to make sure that they have the things. If you go to your Walgreens, you go to your Walmart, they got the things. But like things like a barber and stuff, look, I'll be the first to look. I assure you, when I originally came here back in the day in '92, there's a reason that my wife was my barber for 20 plus years, and that and thank God Michael Jordan made the bald head cool, because
it makes the haircut simple.
It made the haircut simple, and then the wife has hooked me up many years. But I will say this now, that since I am spending more time in Appleton, I've been going to the barber. And I enjoy that experience of sitting down and having that old school barber feel, conversations.
Sure.
And we do have barbers in Oshkosh, multiple barbers. So they're there. I will make sure I put the link. So Kosh listeners, I will put the link in there for that resource book, the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion resource book. And then we should have this conversation about creating our own for Oshkosh.
Okay.
I think there's opportunity.
All right. Well, I'd like to see the one that exists now, and certainly if there's one for Oshkosh that comes into development, I'd love to have that too.
Yeah. Okay. Naughty/Heroes Corner. This is your opportunity to nominate. It's not necessarily a person. It could be a thing, an organization, whoever, to the Naughty or Heroes Corner, or both.
Heroes Corner, and it is a person, and it's my wife. And the reason I say that is because, and it's not necessarily even because of this, I acknowledged her as a hero Christmas. I had a little caricature. I gave her a portrait caricature of her as a hero, a superhero, for Christmas. One of the things, that wasn't the only thing, ladies, that I gave my wife, but it was one of the things. My wife is a respiratory therapist, and so she's been on the front lines of this COVID epidemic for a long time.
Oh, my God.
And so, not many people know what respiratory therapists do. There was always, particularly when the pandemic first happened or came about, there was all this attention about doctors and nurses and how tired they were. But the people who actually worked the respiratory machines and the ventilators are not nurses, and they're not doctors. They're respiratory therapists. They're the only ones trained to do that. If you ever saw an episode of any medical show where there's an emergency and they're rushing somebody in, and the person who's got that big bag thing that they're squeezing with their hand, that's a respiratory therapist. So I recognize, when she was coming home, and experiencing all the things that went along with treating people who had COVID. So I recognized her as a hero. My wife is from Chicago, born and raised there. Now lives here with me. First time moving out of the state of Illinois, first time moving out of Chicago. But she's here with me now, and so I know it's been a transition for her. And so she's holding it down. She's doing what she has to do. And so she's my hero.
There's so much I want to learn, but I'm not going to ask right now on the show. But I need to learn more about what respiratory therapists do. Just the fact that I can only imagine the level of commitment and the hours and the work that is being done during this pandemic for someone in that particular position. I have an amazing amount of admiration for that.
They're right in the face of the person. Because when you're talking about breathing, mouth, nose, and you're having to deal with that, to help someone breathe, that means you're right in their face. There's no 6 feet when you're a respiratory therapist. So when the pandemic, before we had a vaccine, she was there, helping our folks. Yeah, right. So it was tough.
All right. Okay. Now we are on to the topic of the week. And as everyone knows, that the guest gets the opportunity to pick the topic of the week. And this week's topic of the week is, Wendell, please.
And I don't know, I'm just going to say it like this because I'm not sure how to say it. Are young people today soft? You know what I mean? It just seems that there's good and bad to having a heightened awareness, I guess, of your feelings and all that, and being in tune with that, and being aware of it, and I'm down with that. I do think that's a good thing. But the opposite is that you're always in your feelings, and it just seems to me sometimes when I deal with younger people that they are, I don't know, maybe just kind of, they worry and fret over things that aren't even worth worrying and fretting over. And I don't know if I'm imagining that. Maybe it's just the people I've been in touch with, or is that it in general?
My observation is somewhere along the way, we stopped really preparing our young people with resiliency.
Okay.
That's the way I kind of see it. Like, that there's a certain resiliency that you just need in life. Things are going to happen. Mm-hmm. Crap happens,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there needs to, people are going to do things. People are going to say things that you're not going to like. People are going to be offensive. You move in spaces if you expose yourself to the public, then you are going to experience good things and bad things from being exposed to the public, right? And so what I've noticed, and I'm going through this right now, particularly with something that I'm working on, where I feel like we need to get back to teaching or mentoring resiliency, like to just say, hey, things happen.
Yeah, right.
You know what?
Yeah.
Keep it moving.
Yeah.
Don't let it get you down. Don't get in your, as you are putting it, and I don't disagree with you. You like it. See, take your time, be in your feelings for a quick second, but at the end of the day, get back up, brush off. Resiliency. Like if you think about it, and I don't want to sound like that old man or whatever.
And that's where I was. Am I the old guy, the old get off my lawn guy now? I don't want to be that guy.
Right.
But I can't help make these observations where I think about my youth, and yet things are different, certainly, but they're not that different.
Right.
Technology is different, but that's just about life. Typically, is we all have the same kind of challenges, and I just remember being in high school and in college and having to overcome little things, all sorts of things, and not. I don't know, reacting differently maybe.
But on the other side of that coin, is it a situation where maybe what's happening is the right thing, because maybe it's the fact of, in resilience, you were accepting other people's privilege that they were bestowing onto you, right? In the way that they treat you and things like that. And now this generation is like,
I'm not. Yeah, I agree with that. That is certainly a plus to have your limitations and not be afraid to speak what your truths are. And
right, boundaries. I think there's better boundaries being created by young people as far as what they will accept,
and having no problems walking away from a situation.
Yep.
But that's not what I mean.
Okay.
I mean, how do you deal with those life issues? Not necessarily, I mean, turning your back and running and walking away from everything is not necessarily a good thing, is it? I mean, I think sometimes you have to just kind of, at least I think, it's good to just be able to know how to deal with the situation that's in front of you,
okay,
and resolve it.
All right. Can you, I want to dig in a little bit. So can you give is there a narrative? Yeah, an example, a narrative. And I mean, it doesn't have to be, but something so we can frame it a little better.
I don't. This is over a few years of observations. It wasn't necessarily one thing that made me think about it, but I just know that, as you have been alluding to, there just seems to be a different way of approaching things. And as I said this at the beginning, there's good to that. Certainly, I recognize the good, because not only have they benefited, I've benefited from it.
Right. Because
now I recognize that I don't have to deal with some things that I may have dealt with. Mm-hmm. I think, though, that there is still, something else going on, and I'm not sure what it is. And I don't know if it's just me being older and not having that same viewpoint, or something else.
I don't know. My observations in some of it, I feel like there was a big difference, at least when I grew up. My parents wanted me to do well, but they weren't going to do well for me.
Okay. Yeah.
And I just feel like there's a lot of situations out here where parents are really like setting the board up for their children, and not, and to the point sometimes that the child don't even get a say.
Okay, yeah.
Like they're all in it. They're the ones doing this, that, and another. Like, and it carries over even into, like, I get it while they're in young and throughout high school. Okay. But college too? No, you don't get to call the college and complain about your students' grades.
Yeah.
And
I haven't had that yet.
No,
but I do think that's gonna happen at some point.
No, it's I know professors and instructors who, like, literally that's a thing, and parents, just like the student didn't do what they were supposed to do.
So then it's not the young person necessarily; it's the parenting that's going on.
I think who you grow up to be has a large part to do with whatever your experiences are younger, and whether whoever those are surrounded you, not necessarily your parents. It could be, other mentors or the people that are in, coaches. I don't know. I'm just saying, like, who you become, you don't tend to get there by yourself.
Yeah, that's true. Exactly. So then, but then it's so widespread that now it's just not. It's cultural almost. I mean, it's like the whole society is like this. Is not just a few people who have benefited from or had helicopter parents. It's just folks who. It's just the way things are. It's how we've had a shift, I think, or something in the way people react to certain situations that I've noticed is just different than how we may have reacted when we were coming up, or how we're forced to deal with certain situations on our own.
Yeah, I'm not sure it's right or wrong, but me personally, I do think there's a resiliency, opportunity. I just think there's certain situations like where I have conflict with it, and conflict is probably too strong of a word, is when there's always the expectation of others to fix it. Right. That's and some things, just can't be fixed. That's not how that works.
Yeah.
The others everybody can't just go fix that.
Yeah.
Some things just societally, how people interact, things that you experience. You just, as much as you are who you are, they are who they are. And there's got to be some resiliency ingrained where you keep it moving or you handle it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Knowing what you can change and what you can't change, and changing those things you can and walking away from those you can't. But it seems like there's more walking away than trying to deal with issues that you can resolve as an adult.
Yeah.
So, okay. That was I didn't necessarily, again, I don't study these areas. I just kind of noticed things, and I just wasn't sure if that was something that, am I just getting old and I'm stuck in my ways, or am I seeing something that is bigger than that?
I don't know. It's probably, well, of course, like most things, there's no straight answer.
Yeah.
And it's probably a lot of different things when you think about it, but I like it. I mean, because I do, I wish I could talk a little bit more about what I'm going through right now, because I got a narrative, but I can't put it on blast, y'all. I can't put it on blast. So, but yeah, I personally think it's a resiliency thing.
Okay. All right. And I can respect that answer. And I didn't have one, so I just wanted to throw that out as my topic and see what you thought about that.
Okay. Well, so we're at that point of the show, Kosh listeners. Just want to say thank you for tuning in. Hey, we are a work in progress. I tell you this all the time. We are a work in progress. Please reach out to us at askthekosh@gmail.com. Once again, that is askthekosh@gmail.com. As you know, I respond to every email personally. We're always looking for advice, ideas. Let us know what you thought of a show. If you disagreed or agreed with something that we covered as a topic, your input is everything. So just reach out. Let us know what you think. And I'm trying to, we're always just trying to do a little bit better. All right. Now, you know, it's my favorite time of the show. It's my favorite time. It is shout out time. I love it. I love it. I love it. So, all right. Wendell, you got some shout outs?
I've always kind of shouted out to my wife, but I want to shout out to her again. That's Felisa. Thank you. And shouting out to her for making this adjustment with me. I also want to shout out to all my family, and particularly my siblings. We had a rough year this year, you know, a lot of loss in our family. And we, I think, though, have come together in different ways. You know, sometimes what you know, certain situations will reveal what people are made of. And I'm pleased to say that I think that my brothers and sisters have revealed how strong they are. And I just want to send a shout out to them for holding together and holding it down and getting through.
Okay. I got a couple of shout outs once again at the beginning of the show, but I'm going to re-shout them out. I want to shout out those individuals from the UWOPD. Thank you for including me for the Brewers game. It was amazing.
Did we win?
Yeah, we won. Right. We handled it. All right. And then a special shout out to the person who's working on my prototypes. We're trying to get some the Kosh gear.
Hey,
we're working on a T-shirt and a hat. So I'm going to, you know, once we have it, you know, I'm going to take a picture and, you know, because the Kosh has no budget, we're going to try to do pre-orders. So if you're interested, keep your eyes open. It'll be hitting Facebook. We'll have it out there. So shout out to Jamie. Thank you for the work you've been doing. I appreciate you. Another shout out to the Jerk Joint in Appleton. Look,
hey,
if you ain't never had a jerk taco with some mango pico de gallo, you missing life. You missing something in life. You need to go on and try that there. They got it in chicken. They got it in pork. But by far, this taco ain't no joke. Them people at the Jerk Joint is handling it. So go on. If you need to go on down there. I'm not going to lie. We had a thing at work where we on our team, we each individual brought in tacos from different places. And the Jerk Joint pulled off the victory for me.
That sounds good, man. I love jerk food.
It's fabulous. All right. And last and not least, I had the opportunity to go to Long Chains Marketplace and sit down with one of the Appleton council members, Councilmember Maiua, Alderwoman Maiua. Hey, that food, amazing. So thank you so much for sharing that and blessing me with that experience in the food. Yeah, no, it was.
Now,
like,
what kind of cuisine was this?
Hmong.
Is that right?
Yeah, this was Hmong at its finest. This that she shared with me, and you know what, I would share with y'all, but I don't even know if I can pronounce some of it. So I'm just gonna.
It was just good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be disrespectful to it. I'm just gonna acknowledge it and say thank you. That's all cool. Right. So special shout out. Okay, we are at the last part of the show. Wendell, do you have some parting words of wisdom for us?
Just, you know, man, congratulations for having the idea to do this podcast. I think it's warranted, and I think you do a good job with it. And the only thing that I would say is keep moving with it. You know, this show, I'm sure the podcast, when it started, is not like it is now. and it will always continue to grow as you continue to grow. So I would just say keep doing it, keep reaching out, and you never know what can become of it. I think you have a foundation for something really good, and good idea, good conversation. Clearly, you benefited from WRST.org and WRST FM. Your training as an on-air personality is evident, and I'm just glad to have been a part of it. But I think you do, in all seriousness, have a really good idea here, and a good place for people to come and have a conversation about what's going on in the Kosh.
Hey, I appreciate that. And was this cool?
Where'd those drums come from?
Hey, I'm feeling.
You got a drummer in the back? You got like that one movie, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker? You got a band following you around?
You didn't know? The Kosh. Wait, this is the Kosh. Once again, we ain't got no budget.